If you told me 5 years ago that my marriage would fall apart over a startup pitch and a shared iCloud password, I'd have laughed in your face. Back then, Vanessa and I were two idealistic co-founders, one love story and one product roadmap away from changing the world, or so we believed. We had matching coffee mugs that said CEO and COO, and a whiteboard in the living room where we scribbled features, bedtime routines, and grocery lists in no particular order. Now, well, now I sit at this quiet kitchen table, eating cereal out of a mug and waiting for the sound of my daughter's sneakers thumping down the stairs. "Morning, Daddy," Lily says, rubbing sleep from her eyes and curling into the chair across from me. "Morning, Bug. Want waffles or cereal?" She picks cereal. I pour. We sit in silence for a moment. She's got that thoughtful look, the one where I know something's on her mind, but she's trying to figure out if it's worth sharing. Eventually, she says, "Mommy's boyfriend lets her call him boss. Isn't that weird?" I look up from my spoon, nearly choke on a Cheerio. "Boss." She nods, crunching away like it's the most casual thing in the world. "Yeah." She said it on the phone. I was playing on the iPad, but I heard her. She giggled, too. That giggle. The same one that used to be mine. Used to be ours. Back when we were building this dream together, Vanessa and I. Before the new investors came in. Before she insisted I take a step back to focus on parenting, while she led the big pitch rounds. Before the tech bro in the quarter-zip Patagonia fleece showed up at our daughter's school art night and shook my hand like he already owned my half of the cap table. I play it cool for Lily's sake. But inside, something clicks. Or maybe snaps. After Lily's drop-off at school, I drive home slower than usual. Not because I'm tired, but because I'm thinking, running it all through in my head. I've seen the signs. The late nights. The vague calendar events. The fact that she updated our shared family calendar to just Lily's parent for my contact name. Then there's the app, the one we built together. Hearth, a personal care and household coordination app. Think Google Calendar meets Pinterest with a dash of AI for co-parents. It was our baby before we had a baby. I was the one who coded the first version. She was the pitch queen, the storyteller. We made magic, until she started taking meetings without me. And then the feature I designed, the one that lets parents share message logs and emotional check-ins, went mysteriously unused in the beta. One night, while updating Lily's iPad for a school app, I noticed something strange. Vanessa's Hearth dev build was still logged into iCloud from when we used to test on this same device. And that's when I opened it. I wasn't snooping. Not at first. But it didn't take long to notice the invisible tab. Not meant for me. Not meant for anyone except her and, apparently, the boss. There it was. A secret testing environment linked to a chat log. I clicked. And the first thing I saw? Vanessa. God. If Ben knew what we were doing at the offsite, he'd set the servers on fire. Jonah. LOL. Your ex is smart, but harmless. He's in dad mode now. No real threat. Vanessa. Still. Let's make sure he doesn't have access to the beta branches. I sat back. My hands were shaking. I should have felt angry. I should have shouted or thrown something. But instead, I felt cold. Because that was the moment I knew she didn't just replace me in her heart. She replaced me in our company. She took the app, the brand, the investors. But she forgot I was still in the iCloud. That night, I sat down with Lily and helped her with her school project, my family's big idea. She had originally chosen Mommy's startup. But now, after dinner, she told me, "I want to change my topic, Daddy. Can I do why honesty matters instead?" I looked at her, her serious little face, her fierce little heart, and I just nodded. "Good choice," I said. "It's strange, the way betrayal sneaks up on you. Not like a hammer, more like a pinhole leak in a pipe. By the time you notice the water pooling on the floor, the damage is already done." I wasn't a bitter man, not naturally. But that week, after Lily told me about Mommy's boss boyfriend, I found myself waking earlier and earlier, just sitting there in the dark before sunrise, hands wrapped around a lukewarm coffee mug, staring at nothing. The kitchen felt bigger, colder, quieter, and I started listening, really listening, to Lily, to the way Vanessa's tone had shifted when she'd come by to pick her up for school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There was always a new tension in her voice, like she was playing a part. Her glances were quick and unreadable, like she didn't want to risk locking eyes for too long. I'd always known Vanessa was ambitious. That's one of the things I loved about her. When we met, She was the one who could walk into any room and make it hers in under 5 minutes. Me? I was the guy in the corner, building the bones, making the thing work. She once told me, half joking, that I was the brains and she was the fire. But I'd built Hearth from scratch. That app was my code base, my long nights, my debugging marathons. And now? It was her golden ticket to exit velocity. The iCloud breach wasn't a hack. It was a relic of a time when we trusted each other so completely, we didn't think twice about syncing devices. We both used the same family iCloud account for testing during development, initially, so I could deploy builds to her phone faster when she was on the go. She never changed it after I stepped back from day-to-day dev work. It was still logged in on Lily's iPad. So, while Lily slept over at my place for the weekend, I did what any curious, slightly heartbroken ex-husband and former CTO would do. I explored. No spyware. No snooping through her photos or private messages outside of the app we both technically still owned. Just Hearth's test flight beta, pushed through her Apple developer profile. And hidden deep in the Dev Tools section, usually only visible on builds with debug mode activated, was a feature called Insight Threads. I didn't name that. In fact, I never built anything by that name. I tapped it open. A prompt asked for a 4-digit PIN. I tried her birthday. Nope. I tried Lily's birthday. Nothing. Then I paused. Jonah, her new boss. The guy from the last funding round. The same Jonah who kept liking her Instagram pictures and made sure I wasn't invited to the Series A dinner. Mr. Quarter Zip Patagonia. I typed 0412, April 12th. His birthday, based on a post Vanessa made from the office back in March. Happy birthday to the best boss and the best man. Click. It opened. What I saw wasn't just a log of test messages. It was their entire conversation history, backdated almost 8 months. Internal messages between accounts, disguised as backend server notes. At first glance, it looked like product feedback. But it wasn't. Jonah, backend_dev, need to circle back on this Saturday. Maybe in your bed again. Smiling face with horns. Vanessa, C_haha. Only if you bring the Thai food this time. Also, Ben still thinks I'm working on a UX audit tomorrow. Clueless. I sat back. My stomach flipped. It kept going. Jonah. Imagine his face if he knew you basically iced him out of the cap table with that restructuring clause. Vanessa, don't tempt me. Honestly, if he hadn't stepped back to play super dad, this would have been Messier. Now I just need him to stay quietly domestic for 6 more months until we exit. Jonah. And then. Vanessa. And then we get a condo in Sausalito and forget he ever touched the code. I stared at that line for a long time. Forget he ever touched the code. I printed the logs. Not to show a lawyer. Not yet. I wasn't interested in legal revenge. This wasn't about money. It was about truth. I'd let her use the app we built as her personal ladder to fame, but I couldn't let her erase me, especially not in front of Lily and Milo. Yeah, Milo. Our son. He's 6. Bright kid. Talks more like a little scientist than a first grader. He was the one who first noticed something weird with the Hearth app on his mom's phone. He'd said, casually during bath time, when I press the blue heart button on mommy's phone, it shows me weird words in gray that disappear fast. What kind of words? I don't know. Like, cache push to staging and flag enabled for Jonah and stuff. Then they go away. He paused. Is it like a spell? Not quite, kiddo. But in a way, yes. That was a feature I built, back when we were testing interactive notifications. But no one else should have seen those logs, unless debug mode was active on the production build, which meant Vanessa was doing more than just leading Hearth's pitch to investors. She was actively using debug-enabled builds in her demos. And that gave me an idea. I took the latest build, made a copy, forked it quietly. The beta server accepted new versions if you used the right dev keys. She hadn't revoked mine yet. Probably forgot I even had access, thinking I'd retired from code like a dad going out to pasture. In this forked build, I injected a very simple, very precise bug. It was triggered only when a specific action occurred, pressing submit on a pitch demo form while the phone was in presentation mode, which Vanessa always used for live events. The bug would override the screen that normally displayed, "Thank you for your submission," and instead loop in the last 10 Insight thread messages, shown like an animated chat replay across the screen, emojis, timestamp, and all. It would disappear after 7 seconds, then crash to the home screen. 7 seconds. That's all. but it would be enough. I didn't tell anyone, not even Lily, who was quietly designing a new poster for her school showcase. I happened to see her sketch one night. It showed a stick-figure mom standing in front of a big screen with chat bubbles above her head. The words were too small to make out, but the title across the top in color marker read, "Why Honesty Matters." I almost cried. "Is that for the school expo?" "Yeah," she said, without looking up. I changed it. I didn't want to do mommy startup anymore. "Why not?" She shrugged. Didn't feel real. Vanessa's big demo was set for that Friday. 500 investors and founders in a sun-drenched ballroom. Sleek tables, fresh coffee, big screens. I didn't go. Wasn't invited. But Hearth streamed their demo live on LinkedIn. I watched from home. Lily curled up next to me on the couch, drawing. Vanessa walked onto the stage in her tailored blazer, every bit the star of her own show. She launched into the speech I'd heard 100 times. Her voice had that old fire. I remembered why I fell in love with her. It almost hurt more because of that. Then she said it, and now, let me show you how Hearth is revolutionizing co-parenting. When I hit submit, our platform sent a customized check-in that. She tapped the screen. Right on cue. 7 seconds. And then, "Jonah, you in the mood after pitch prep? Might need some brainstorming smirking face." "Vanessa, haha. Already told Ben I'm swamped. He'll be on dinner duty again, faced with tears of joy." "Jonah, your ex makes a good babysitter." "Vanessa, more like a ghost in the code, but harmless." One investor in the front row cocked his head. The crowd fell into a slow, confused murmur. Vanessa's face froze. She tapped the screen again. Nothing. The iPhone returned to the home screen. And that's when I saw her smile falter. Not just from the glitch, but from recognition. She knew who still had access. And she knew I'd been watching. Lily looked up at me from her drawing. "Daddy, was that your thing?" I nodded once. She blinked. "I thought so." She turned the page. Started a new one. Vanessa didn't call me that night. Not that I expected her to. Not after what happened on stage. But still, I waited. The live stream had gone black the second the app crashed. The event organizers quickly pulled the plug and cut to a generic "thanks for joining us" screen. But by then, the damage had been done. The replay of their messages, hers and Jonah's, had already made its way across Twitter, Reddit, and even a few tech industry blogs before the hour was out. Vanessa's company Hearth was trending, for all the wrong reasons. By midnight, I'd seen no fewer than 6 posts with screenshots of the glitch demo. So, this is what emotional intelligence at scale looks like. App demo hijacked by co-founders of Fair Receipts. Brutal. New startup pitch. Cheat Smart, the infidelity tracker inside your parenting app. And still, no call. No apology. No knock at the door. Just silence. The kids didn't notice the chaos right away. Lily had stayed up late sketching again. Milo was asleep before the app ever glitched on screen. But I could feel the ripple of it, building under the surface like a slow-moving quake. Something inevitable. The next morning, Lily came to the breakfast table with a smile and an announcement. My teacher said I could be in the school newspaper. I told her I'm switching my project from Startup Spotlight to a character essay. "Oh," I asked, pouring milk over her cereal. "Yeah, it's called When Grown-Ups Lie, and what that teaches us." She looked at me with those clear, unblinking eyes. The ones that didn't miss anything. The ones that had probably been seeing through Vanessa long before I had. I didn't say anything for a moment. Then I asked, carefully, "Is it about your mom?" "No," she said. Then, after a pause, "It's about a story I made up. But the story has parts that really happened." She crunched her cereal. "That's allowed, right?" I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "More than allowed. It's honest." She smiled. Vanessa finally texted me around 10:17 a.m. "We need to talk. Please." That was it. No hey. No explanation. Just a flat tone of CEO who's used to managing disasters like PR fires and data breaches. Not the slow, bleeding loss of a marriage unraveling under the eyes of our kids. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and logged into Hearth's admin console, something I hadn't done in over a year. As I suspected, my credentials were still valid. Vanessa had clearly been too distracted or too arrogant to revoke them. I wasn't in the app for revenge this time. I was looking for something else. You see, the bug I triggered at the demo, the one that displayed the insight threads, wasn't just a flashy sabotage. It was my last line in the sand. A boundary. A truth bomb wrapped in code. But after the explosion, I needed to know what were the aftershocks. So I checked the logs. Jonah had pulled out of the beta testing team. I saw the revocation request come through within 30 minutes of the glitch. Coward. More interesting, though, was the sudden influx of access requests to the Insight Threads feature. Users who hadn't even known it existed were trying to figure out what it was and how to replicate the glitch. I saw notes like, "Hey, can we access that chat feature for transparency? Is this going to be part of the full release? I need to know if this data can be seen by my co-parent. I thought this was encrypted." That was the thing about lies. Once exposed, people wanted to know where else the cracks were. Later that day, Vanessa showed up at the front door. Not with her usual forced smile and over-the-top, "Hey kiddos," voice. She looked tired, makeup barely on, a little stunned, like she hadn't slept or maybe hadn't stopped crying. I opened the door, blocking the kids from view. "They're doing homework," I said. She nodded, lips tight. "Can we talk?" she asked. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. She stood on the porch like a stranger, arms crossed, staring down at her shoes. "You humiliated me." "No," I said calmly. "You humiliated yourself. I just made sure the right people saw it. I had investors in that room, Ben. People who put real money behind Hearth. You had a marriage and 2 children, Vanessa, and you risked that for Jonah." Her eyes flashed at that, but only for a second. She was still calculating angles, still trying to find a lever that might work on me. "I didn't think it would go this far," she muttered. "It was a mistake, okay? We got close during the pitch process. He listened to me. He believed in my vision, while you lied to your daughter and dragged my name through the mud." Her jaw clenched. "You think this makes you the hero?" "No," I said. "Just the last honest one in the room." She flinched, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I saw something real flash across her face. Not guilt, not regret, shame, maybe even grief. We talked for 20 minutes. She asked to access the admin keys again, said she needed to fix the app, rebuild trust, smooth things over with the investors. I told her no, but it's my company. No, it was our company. And if you want to salvage it, you'll do it without my help. "You know, I can't fix the back end," she said quietly. "You wrote the whole engine. Then maybe it's time to find someone who can help you," I said. "Or shut it down." That was when she broke. Her hands trembled. "I can't do this alone, Ben." I looked her straight in the eye. "You already are." That night, Lily sat me down. "I want to ask you something," she said, her voice nervous. "Okay, for my project, I want to use some of those messages from the app, the ones that showed up on Mommy's screen." I blinked. "Why?" "Because they're real. And the project called Why Honesty Matters, right?" I hesitated. "Lily, those messages weren't meant for the world. Even if your mom made mistakes, it's not your job to embarrass her." She bit her lip. "I'm not doing it to embarrass her. I'm doing it to understand. I don't want to lie like that someday. I want to know what happens when you tell lies and what happens when you don't." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "You're already smarter than I was at your age," I whispered. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Maybe, but you're not a bad dad, Daddy. You're just a little sad right now." I smiled through wet eyes. "Yeah," I said, "but I think I'm getting better." The next morning, I logged back into the Hearth system. I left a final message in the Insight Threads feature. Ben_admin. If you're reading this, congrats. You found the truth. Don't look away from it. I disabled my admin account, deleted the forked build, and closed the laptop. If you'd told me 6 months ago that my daughter would become the moral compass of our entire household, I wouldn't have believed you. Lily had always been observant, sure, bright in a way that made teachers raise their eyebrows during parent-teacher conferences and say things like, "She's got an old soul." But after the app demo disaster and the fallout that followed, something shifted in her. She didn't just observe anymore. She started asking questions. The kinds of questions that make grown men squirm. That Sunday morning, she came to me with her Chromebook in hand. Her school project, Why Honesty Matters, was now outlined in perfect bullet points, each one anchored in examples from real life. Our life. "Can I read this to you?" she asked, pulling her chair next to mine at the dining room table. Of course. She cleared her throat, her voice trembling slightly but steadying as she continued. We learn about honesty from grown-ups. They teach us that lying is bad and telling the truth is good. But sometimes grown-ups lie. Sometimes they lie to their kids, to their friends, to their husbands or wives. Sometimes they even lie to themselves. In my family, something like that happened. My mom made something really cool. It was called Hearth. It helped families stay connected. But then she started using Hearth to lie. She thought no one would find out, but they did. Not just because of the messages, but because truth has a way of showing up, even when you try to hide it. My dad didn't yell. He didn't scream. He just showed people what was really happening. He was honest, even when it hurt. And I think that's what makes someone strong. Not being perfect, but being honest. She looked up at me. I couldn't speak. I reached over, pulled her into a hug, and just held her. "Is it okay?" she whispered. "It's more than okay," I said. "It's the most important thing I've heard in a long time." But not everyone appreciated Lily's new clarity. The next day, I got a call from Vanessa. "Can you talk?" I stepped outside to the porch. "Go ahead. It's about Lily's school project," she said. "Her teacher emailed me. She's using those screenshots from the demo. She's not using them to hurt anyone," I said. "She's trying to understand." "It's not appropriate," Vanessa snapped. "She's 10. This is messy adult stuff. And now she's writing an essay about infidelity and investor sabotage like it's some kind of science fair topic." "You lied to her," I said calmly. "And to me, that's not messy adult stuff. That's life. She's trying to process it the only way she knows how." There was a long pause. I didn't expect her to take sides," Vanessa said quietly. "She didn't take sides. She took truth." Another pause. This one longer. "You know, I lost 3 investors this week," she finally said. "The only reason we haven't completely collapsed is because Ginny Leong from Bloomforge is still on board." She called me and said, and I quote, "The integrity issue is concerning, but I'm more worried that you didn't see it coming." I said nothing. "Ben, this could ruin everything." It already did. The truth was, I didn't want to destroy Vanessa. I really didn't. She was the mother of my children. Once, she had been my partner in everything: marriage, business, ambition, dreams. But somewhere along the way, she'd started seeing people as stepping stones instead of companions. And once she stepped on me, she thought I'd stay down. But I didn't. I had something more powerful than her, something I'd forgotten I had. Time. And clarity. And truth. That same week, I was invited to Lily's school to observe her presentation. She stood in front of her classmates with her project board, half art project, half essay, and explained, in her own words, what it meant to see the truth and not look away. She didn't mention Vanessa by name, but it didn't matter. One of the other moms, a woman named Heather, stopped me in the hallway afterward. "That was powerful," she said. "You must be so proud." I smiled. "More than I can put into words." Then she added something I didn't expect. "My husband works at Calyx Ventures. He said your ex-wife's startup might be under review for acquisition or dissolution. Depends on what they find in the back end." I raised an eyebrow. "Dissolution?" "Yep. There's some talk about conflicts of interest. They didn't like that a co-founder was using debug-enabled builds in a public demo. Said it was a security red flag." I tried not to smile. "Interesting," I said. "Very interesting." That night, I sat down and did something I hadn't done in a long time. I opened my code editor. Not to sabotage, not to spy, but to rebuild. Because while Vanessa had burned Hearth to the ground in pursuit of a flashy launch and a self-serving brand, I still believed in the idea of it. The core of it. Families deserve better tools for staying connected. Not just glossy interfaces, but real, human functionality. So I spun up a local dev environment and created a new project. This one was different. It wasn't just about sharing calendars and chore lists. It was about building transparency into communication from the start. Kids could see what their parents agreed to. Parents could log disagreements without turning them into battles. And there was no insight thread hidden feature. Everything would be visible. Simple. Honest. I called it Nestlog. Lily helped me with the logo. Milo picked the colors. We worked on it together after homework, over hot cocoa, with Lily dictating UX ideas and Milo drawing smiley faces next to every prototype screen. It didn't matter if it ever launched. It felt good just to build something honest again. One night, as we sat testing a new mood tracking feature, Lily asked me, "Will Mommy be mad that you made a new app?" "She might," I said. "Do you care?" I thought about it. No, I said, because I'm not doing it to win. I'm doing it right. She smiled and returned to sketching. Meanwhile, Vanessa was unraveling. I saw her 2 days later at the handoff for the kids. She looked like she hadn't slept again. Her hair was tied back messily, and she wore sunglasses even though it was cloudy. As she buckled Milo into his booster seat, she turned to me and said, "You're building something new." I didn't deny it. "I saw the domain," she said. "Nestlog. Clever. You know you're still under NDA for some of the Hearth concepts, right?" I looked her in the eye. "You mean the ones I built? The ones you pitched while hiding a secret message server in the dev stack?" Her face paled. "I'm not stealing your company, Vanessa," I added. "I'm building what it should have been. For the kids. For co-parents who actually want to do it right." She exhaled sharply. "You're going to be the hero in all this, aren't you?" she said bitterly. "No," I said. "Just not the villain." The following week, I got an email from a reporter. Tech, of course. They'd seen the demo crash video and wanted to do a follow-up story on what Hearth had become and where the ex-co-founder had gone. I declined the interview, but I told them this. Startups don't collapse because of one bug or one press disaster. They collapse when the people building them forget why they started in the first place. They published that quote. Didn't even need my name. Didn't matter. People knew. And for the first time in a long time, so did I. They say there are two kinds of people in the tech world, those who build quietly and those who pitch loudly. Vanessa was always the latter. She knew how to light up a room, how to stand in front of a half-dozen skeptical investors and convince them they were moments away from funding the next unicorn. And to be fair, she had magic in her. Charisma. Vision. But the one thing she never seemed to understand was that charisma without integrity eventually collapses like a startup running on fumes. I, on the other hand, was the builder. Always had been. My code wasn't flashy, but it ran clean. My features didn't win awards, but they never crashed during a live demo. I built things to work, not to impress. It took me a while to remember that was a strength, not a weakness. Nestlog launched quietly. No press release. No influencer campaign. Just a simple blog post I wrote and published under my own name. The homepage had one headline. For families who care enough to be honest. That was it. There was no VC funding. No Series A. Just a clean UI, a few core features, and the promise that it would never hide anything from the people using it. Within the first week, we had 600 signups. Within the second, we had 1,400. By the end of the month, I got an email from a public school district in Oregon asking if they could pilot Nestlog for their family engagement program. They said it was the first app they'd seen that felt like it was built by someone who actually understood co-parenting, not just marketing it. I read that email 3 times before responding. Then I showed it to Lily. She beamed. "Told you it would work," she said, brushing a crumb off the sleeve of her hoodie like a tiny CEO. Meanwhile, Hearth wasn't doing so well. Vanessa's silence told me most of what I needed to know. I hadn't heard from her in 2 weeks, not even during our usual check-ins about Lily and Milo's school pickups. Every update came through a shared Google Calendar or quick one-line text message. I heard from mutual friends that Jonah had stepped back from his role as COO, unofficially fired, depending on who you asked. There were rumors that Hearth's board had requested an independent audit of the platform's internal message handling features. Apparently, someone found traces of a hidden server sandbox that didn't pass privacy compliance. Wonder who built that? Not me. Then, late one Friday afternoon, as I was finishing a call with a school counselor about Nestlog's emotional journaling feature, my phone buzzed with a message from Vanessa. "Vanessa, can you meet? Please. No tricks. Just want to talk." I stared at it. She didn't usually say please. We met at the park. Same one where we used to take Lily for walks when she was still in a stroller. It was nearly empty when I got there, the sky hanging low with winter-gray clouds and the faint scent of cold dirt and eucalyptus in the air. Vanessa sat on the far bench. Her posture wasn't the usual power pose. No crossed legs or performative confidence. Just elbows on her knees, hands folded together. Waiting. I approached slowly. Sat without a word. She looked over at me, and for the first time in months, maybe even years, I saw the Vanessa I used to know. Not the polished founder. Not the investor whisperer. Just the woman who once kissed me in a parking garage after our first pitch together and said, "I think we actually have something real here." Now, she just looked tired. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for coming." She nodded. And for not going public with more. I know you could have torched the whole company. You had every right to. I shrugged. Didn't need to. You lit the match. Her lips pressed into a thin, bitter smile. Fair. Silence hung between us. I wanted to say I'm sorry, she added finally. I waited. I let the app become something it wasn't supposed to be. Something slick and shiny and fake. And I let Jonah convince me that you were just a liability. That your stepping back was permission to erase you. It wasn't. I know that now. We sat for a while. A breeze kicked up a few dry leaves, sending them spinning across the path. I'm stepping down, she said suddenly. Hearth's board asked me to resign. Not just because of what happened at the demo, but because I lost trust. With everyone. Internally, externally. The culture got poisoned. I turned to her. Are you saying this for my benefit or your own? She blinked. I'm saying it because I need someone to hear me say it out loud. And because I think our kids deserve parents who can look them in the eye. That one hit me. I let the silence stretch before I spoke. Lily still loves you, you know. So does Milo. But they see everything now. You can't pretend anymore. I'm not going to. She turned to me. I saw Nest log. Of course she had. It's beautiful, she said. Clean. Intuitive. It feels like Hearth did in the very beginning. I nodded. That's because I remembered what it was supposed to be. I wish I could help. Helping starts with leaving it alone, I said. Her shoulders slumped. Then, softly. Can I at least tell them I'm proud of you? Of it. I hesitated. You can tell them you're proud of them. Lily and Milo. They helped build it too. She nodded slowly. And for the first time, maybe she understood. That weekend, we sat down for family pizza night. Vanessa, me, the kids. No tension. No passive aggression. Just pepperoni and crayons and juice boxes and stories about what Lily wanted to add to Nestlog next. Can we do a calendar where you and Mommy both have to heart a plan before it gets scheduled? She asked. I smiled. Why? So no one lies about what they agreed to. I glanced at Vanessa. She met my eyes and didn't flinch. I think that's a very smart idea, she said. Lily grinned. Milo added, Can the heart be blue? Sure, buddy. And just like that, Nestlog got its next update. The final twist came the next Monday, when I got a message from Jenny Leong at Bloomforge, the one investor who'd stuck with Hearth through the crash. Jenny, just saw Nestlog. Let's talk. No VCs. Just parents who care. I read it 3 times. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel like someone recovering from betrayal. I felt like someone moving forward. Not in spite of what happened, but because of it. On the day Nestlog crossed 10,000 users, I didn't throw a party. I didn't post about it. I didn't even tell the kids, not right away. I just sat quietly at my kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee, staring at the little dashboard notification on my screen. 10,017 active accounts. Average, session duration, 6 minutes and 12 seconds. 95% user satisfaction. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like arriving. At peace. At balance. At the honest version of everything I'd once tried to fake my way through. The night after the glitch, that infamous 7-second truth bomb that torpedoed Vanessa's demo, I'd gone to bed unsure if I'd made things better or worse. Part of me still thought maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe I'd let anger steer the wheel. But over time, I came to see it differently. That glitch didn't just reveal an affair. It revealed a pattern of silence, of spin, of half-truths hidden behind a polished pitch deck. It shattered the illusion that Hearth was built to help families, when in truth, it was designed to look helpful, like those toy steering wheels they give toddlers in the back seat, so they feel like they're driving. But Nestlog? Nestlog was real. Every week, we added a new feature, Lily's ideas mostly, with Milo contributing names and icons. There was a mood tracker that showed animated faces you could drag across a timeline, and a disagreement log that recorded how parents resolved issues, highlighting kindness and fairness. One parent even messaged me to say, Your app helped me talk to my ex-wife without fighting. For the first time in 2 years. We weren't changing the world, but we were making one corner of it a little less chaotic. And that was enough. Vanessa had taken a consulting role at another company, something in health tech. We talked every other day, briefly, calmly. Not like exes trying to rekindle anything, but like 2 people finally learning how to co-parent without turning everything into a turf war. She didn't ask about Nestlog much. I didn't gloat. She was rebuilding, quietly this time. Her Instagram was suddenly full of pictures of Milo's soccer games, Lily's science projects. Not a tech bro or pitch stage in sight. Jonah, last I heard, had taken a sabbatical to reflect. In Silicon Valley terms, that's usually code for no one will touch you right now. Couldn't say I missed him. One Thursday afternoon, Lily came home from school holding a manila envelope. "I'm supposed to bring this to you," she said, dropping it on the table like it was a hot potato. "What is it?" "Your invitation." I raised an eyebrow. "To what?" "My class voted to nominate me for the county-wide student expo," she said, suddenly trying to sound casual. "My project. The honesty one. They picked it." "You're kidding." She shook her head, smiling just a little. "The theme is courage through communication. The teacher said I nailed it." "Of course you did." I opened the envelope. The flyer was printed in black and white, with hand-drawn borders clearly made by someone at the school. There it was. Courage Through Communication, District Showcase. Featuring Why Honesty Matters by Lily R. and class contributors. My heart swelled. I wanted to cry, but I held it together. Until she said, "I want you and Mommy to come together." That part hit different. Vanessa and I didn't sit together at the showcase, but we stood next to each other, quietly, while Lily read her updated essay out loud to a gymnasium of strangers, parents, and peers. She spoke with a poise I'd never had at that age. Her voice didn't tremble. People say kids can't understand grown-up problems, but I think that's wrong. We understand when something's fake. We understand when someone lies. And we understand when someone tells the truth, even if it's hard. My mom made a mistake. My dad told the truth. I still love them both. But I think the person who tells the truth is braver. Because being honest is like walking into a storm. But when you come out the other side, you feel like the sun again. The room was silent when she finished. Then came the applause. Vanessa reached over and touched my elbow. Just once. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" She didn't say. But I knew. Later that night, we got ice cream on the way home. Lily ordered a weird swirl of black cherry and bubblegum. Milo dropped a scoop on the floor and immediately asked for a second one. I cleaned it up. Vanessa paid. And for one quiet moment, we stood in line like any other family. No co-founders. No scandals. Just two people trying to do right by their kids. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't forgetting. It was forward. That weekend, I got a call from a mid-sized nonprofit in Colorado. They'd been using Nestlog as a pilot with single-parent homes in their domestic support program. The woman on the other end, Linda, I think her name was, spoke with a kind, tired voice. The kind you hear from people who've seen the worst but still believe in the good. "We had a mom and dad who hadn't spoken in 6 months. They used your app to coordinate therapy appointments and school pickups. It was the first time the dad showed up on time. He left a note in the log that just said, 'Trying.' I didn't say anything. 'You did a good thing,' she added. 'Don't forget that.' I didn't. Not anymore." One evening in late spring, I walked into Lily's room to say goodnight and saw her tapping away on her tablet. "New project?" I asked. She nodded. "Kind of. What's it about?" "Truth," she said. "But like, after." I tilted my head. "After truth?" "Yeah. Like what happens once everything's out in the open. When people stop lying. How do they fix stuff?" I thought for a long moment, then said, "You'll figure it out." She smiled. "Maybe. But it's hard." "It should be," I said. "That's how you know it's real." Sometimes, I still think about that day, the day the app glitched. 7 seconds of truth. That's all it took. 7 seconds that burned down the house we built. But also 7 seconds that cleared the smoke so we could finally see each other clearly, flawed, broken, and trying. The truth didn't end our story. It rewrote it. And in the new version, we weren't heroes or villains. We were just people, doing our best. Subscribe to the channel